The ringtone shattered the stillness. I bolted upright, heart pounding, fumbling for my phone in the dark. 3 a.m. Colin's name flashed across the screen. He never called at this hour. Ever. "Evie," he whispered, voice taut, low, like someone might be listening. "Don't leave the house today. Just trust me." Click. I stared at the screen. No signal. No chance to call back. A chill slid down my spine as I sat frozen in bed. Colin was steady, unflappable. That voice didn't belong to the man I married. That voice belonged to someone afraid, or worse, hunted. I turned on the bedside lamp, bathing the room in its dim glow. Everything looked the same. But it didn't feel the same. I clutched the phone, replaying his tone over and over in my head. Not just urgent. Desperate. He wasn't alone. I tried to sleep. Laid there counting seconds between the creaks in the floorboards and the hum of the refrigerator. Then the hallway light flickered. Not like a bulb dying. Like a pulse, quick, deliberate. I wrapped a robe around myself, crept toward the front door, every step a question mark. That's when I saw him. A man on my porch. Tall. Still. The kind of still that makes your stomach knot. Gabriel Ward. I hadn't seen him since my father's funeral, 6 years ago. He hadn't aged. I cracked the door. "Gabriel?" He didn't answer. Just handed me a small envelope, thick parchment, sealed with a black fingerprint. My father's. "He told me to give you this," he said. His voice was hoarse, raw. "If they ever came for you again." "What do you mean?" He was already walking away. No car. Just disappearing into the foggy dawn like a ghost that didn't need doors. I stood in the kitchen, turning the envelope over in my hands. My father had been dead for years. Heart attack, they said. But I never quite believed it. Inside, a letter. In his handwriting. "Evie, if you're reading this, they're back. Stay inside. Trust no one. Not even your own name." My name? The floor felt unsteady beneath me. My breath came short. A flash, memory of our last conversation. He had been trying to tell me something. Then Margaret burst in, all nerves and excuses. "Arthur, you promised, not now." He never finished that sentence. Now, reading these words, it felt like he was speaking from the grave. And somehow, it wasn't a metaphor. I rushed to the door. Gabriel was gone. Not even a footprint on the dewy porch. The TV turned on. By itself. Static first. Then a flicker. News anchor, pale and stiff under studio lights. This morning, a fatal hit-and-run occurred in downtown Portland. The victim has been identified as Evelyn Rowan. My name. The room disappeared beneath me. I gripped the edge of the counter to stay upright. On screen, a wrecked car. A body. A woman with my coat. My hair. My face. The anchor continued, identification was confirmed through state-issued ID found at the scene. I pulled out my wallet. My driver's license, still there. Real. Warm from my hand. The one on screen. Was a copy. I didn't have time to scream before the door burst open. Gabriel. "Lock it," he barked. All the windows too. I stared. What's happening? There's someone out there. wearing your face. What? What does that even mean? His hands trembled. This isn't new. It started before you were born. Your father, he tried to stop it. He handed me a photograph. Me as a toddler. Only the date on the back didn't match my birth date. Not even close. Who am I? I asked, voice cracking. But Gabriel was gone again. Like he'd never been there. I grabbed my phone, fingers shaking. Dialed Colin. A woman answered. He's busy, she said. With the other Evelyn. Silence. Long hollow. I slowly lowered the phone. Walked to the mirror. Stared at myself. At least. I thought it was myself. What the hell is happening to me? I whispered. My phone buzzed nonstop. I sat at the kitchen table, still in yesterday's clothes, staring at the notification flood like it was a foreign language. Missed calls. Dozens of emails. Subject line screaming urgent from work. I opened the latest one. Termination letter. Effective immediately. The words didn't register until I saw the attachment, office surveillance footage. I clicked. There I was, or someone who looked like me, screaming, flinging a coffee mug, shoving Greg from HR hard against the wall. But I hadn't been at work. I hadn't even left the house. The woman in the video wore a bracelet I hadn't seen in years, a leather braid Colin gave me in college. I'd lost it at a cabin upstate. She still had it. I whispered, this isn't fear. It's fabrication. Someone was erasing me with precision. And they were just getting started. A knock. I froze. Then slowly cracked the door open. Victoria. Tailored blazer, perfect lipstick, the kind of composed smile you'd find on a campaign poster. She carried 2 coffees and an unnerving sense of purpose. Morning, sis. You look tired. Her eyes scanned the living room behind me like she owned it. I didn't invite her in. She walked past me anyway. Mom's worried, she said, handing me coffee like a peace offering. You've been under so much stress. Then came the folder. Legal documents. Clinical. Clean. Cold. Medical guardianship. She signed it this morning, Victoria added, casually sipping. We just want you to get help. I stared at the signature line. Margaret Rowan. You're going to lock me up, I said. You want to make me crazy on paper. You've always been. Volatile, she replied, her tone flipping like a coin. This just makes it official. I tore the papers in half. Victoria only smiled. We have copies. She walked out, but not before turning back with a final jab. Try not to hurt yourself in the meantime. I checked the driveway. A black sedan idled across the street. No plates. Tinted windows. Engine humming low like a predator breathing. When I peered through the blinds, the headlights flashed once. Deliberate. I called the police. You already reported this yesterday, ma'am, the dispatcher said. No. I didn't. The line went dead. My laptop turned on by itself. The screen glowed with my ID, the same photo from years ago, but time-stamped for this morning. They were watching. And they were rewriting my life. Gabriel's voice echoed in my mind. This started before you were born. One last call to Colin. A woman answered. Calm. warm, familiar. "He's asleep," she said. "Don't disturb him." "Who is this?" I demanded. A beat. Then, Evelyn Rowan. Silence. My name. My voice, almost. "Who are you?" I shouted. Click. Dial tone. I stared at the phone, unable to breathe. "They've replaced me," I muttered. I remembered my father's letter. "Not even your own name." "Then I'll take it back." The bathroom mirror didn't comfort me. It challenged me. I leaned in. My reflection stared back. Same tired eyes. Same frizzed hair. But when I blinked, it didn't. Just a half-second off. Like a glitch. "Who are you?" I whispered. Then a memory surfaced, sharp as a knife. My father, sitting on the porch one night, whispering like the sky could hear us, "Truth bends, Evie. But it doesn't break." I returned to the envelope. Ran my fingers over every corner. A card fell out. Metallic. Cold. Engraved with 4 digits, 11 to 30. A date? A deadline? Or the day I stop existing? A pounding knock shattered my trance. 2 men stood at the front door in navy uniforms. Warrant in hand. Evaluation order. Over their shoulders, I saw Victoria sitting in a black sedan, smiling. I backed away slowly. "If they want me to vanish," I whispered, "they'll have to chase me first." I slipped through the back door, heart thundering, the card and letter tight in my hand. Behind me, the storm finally broke. The door creaked as we stepped inside the old study. The smell hit me first, cedar, dust, and something else, something preserved. Gabriel moved behind me silently, letting me lead the way through the narrow hall that hadn't changed since I was 12. The carpet still bore the scorch mark from my failed chemistry experiment. The world felt tilted, like I'd time-traveled by trauma. In the corner, a sleek metal cabinet blinked faintly with a blue light. Biometric lock. My father never had it installed while alive, or so I thought. I placed my thumb on the reader. The cabinet clicked open. Inside, among orderly rows of black binders, Gabriel handed me a battered USB stick labeled AR, "Do not open until." I swallowed hard, plugged it into the old laptop on the desk. The screen lit up, static first, then his face. Arthur Rowan. Alive in pixels. "If you're watching this, they came back," he said. "Evie, this is your proof. Don't trust anyone, especially your mother." I stared at the screen like it might blink and disappear. He planned this. "Gabriel," I whispered, "he left this for me because he knew." Have you ever found something that shattered the version of someone you loved, just by revealing they loved you enough to prepare for your worst day? Sirens. The sudden burst of red and blue stung my eyes as they bounced through the cracked blinds. Tires screeched. Voices shouted. "Move!" Gabriel pulled me from the chair. I grabbed the USB and a small portrait of Dad that had always hung above the desk, his eyes calm, steady. They felt like a shield now. We dashed toward the back hall. A door blew open somewhere behind us. Glass shattered. We burst through the basement exit into the damp forest behind the house. Branches slapped my arms, mud clung to my shoes. A loud crack, wood breaking behind us. I stumbled, almost dropping the USB. My breath ragged, heart hammering. I turned, headlights flared briefly in the trees before disappearing. This wasn't a theory. This was happening. This was war. What would you do if someone handed you the truth in a flash? Would you run, or stand and fight? The metal door blended into the hillside. Gabriel tapped a pattern on the keypad. It opened with a hiss. My father's archive wasn't a room, it was a vault. Boxes lined the walls, labeled with codes, dates, and names I didn't recognize. In the center, a table with folders spread in neat lines like he'd left mid-research. I pulled a folder, Project Rowan, Archive. My name. My birth date, crossed out. A DNA report. My mother's signature. Dates that didn't align. They didn't just hide the truth. They made me, I whispered. Gabriel's face darkened. Your mother and Victoria. They orchestrated the entire thing. You weren't just ignored. You were engineered. I clutched the file. My knees buckled, but I stayed standing. This was betrayal in its purest form, not neglect, not cruelty. Design. When your whole life is built on a lie, how do you rebuild anything? Gabriel worked quickly, uploading encrypted files to my tablet. I watched one play silently, my mother speaking in a board meeting, eyes confident, voice controlled. We ensured Evelyn's development followed the modeled outcome. She'll be contained, legally or otherwise. I didn't blink. I scrolled through more records, emails, voice memos. I flagged the critical ones. I saw it now, a strategy. Not revenge. Exposure. No more running. I was not the hunted. I was the witness. I decide when to speak, I said. Strong doesn't mean untouched. It means turning the scars into a map for freedom. I typed fast. Subject, confidential, evidence attached. Recipients, Board of Rowan Foundation, select journalists, and one old friend in digital forensics. I hovered over the send button. Just one click, and the silence would end. I thought of Dad. Of that final unfinished sentence on the porch. Of Victoria's smirk. Of the other Evelyn answering my call. I clicked. In a secured control room miles away, Margaret's phone pinged. Her hand froze on her teacup. And me? I looked up at the ceiling and whispered, checkmate. But someone watched me. Not Victoria. Not Margaret. Not Colin. In the trees behind the archive, a lens glinted. What would you reveal if you had proof, knowing it might destroy everything? The car hummed softly as we drove. Gabriel kept his eyes on the road. I stared into the trees rushing past. On my lap, the tablet pulsed with a new folder I hadn't noticed before, Bloodline, Rowan, Project Rowan Legal, 2022. I opened it. And held the USB tighter until my knuckles turned white. The war wasn't just about truth. It was about blood. The tires crunched softly against the gravel as the black SUV pulled up to the old Rowan estate. Afternoon sun fought against gathering clouds, painting long shadows over the rusted iron gate. I stepped out first, clipboard in hand, posing as a legal inspector under the family trust. Colin flanked me, confident but tense. Gabriel stayed behind, eyes scanning everything from the rearview mirror. The house loomed taller than I remembered, more like a mausoleum now than a home. Inside, the scent of lavender tried to mask the cold. I moved toward the hallway I hadn't dared enter since my father's memorial. A door stood there, flush with the wall, no handle, only a faint sensor. I didn't remember it being there. The scanner blinked green as I approached. Without prompting, it slid open with a hiss. Biometric access? I muttered. I never authorized anything like this. But it welcomed me anyway. Inside, rows of cold metal cabinets. The temperature dropped. In the far corner, a thick vault door stamped in faded red, Project Rowan, Confidential. Beside it, a dashcam labeled with my name and a date 2 months before my car accident. My hands trembled. I plugged it into a portable screen Colin carried. The footage loaded. A rainy road. Headlights flicking wildly. My husband's voice shouting. Then, impact. Glass. Steel. Screams. A car careened out of nowhere, pushing his vehicle into a ditch. And then, clear as daylight, Victoria standing by the driver's door of the car that struck him. Gabriel leaned close. They orchestrated your crash. She didn't just sabotage your life, she tried to erase it. My blood turned to ice. They didn't just target me, I whispered. They used my bloodline as leverage. Have you ever discovered your last name, your legacy, was a cage built to hide someone else's crimes? Have you ever felt owned by your own story? Upstairs, footsteps. Rapid. Measured. Go! Colin yanked me behind a shelf. Shouts filled the hall. Tactical boots pounded down the stairs. Red lasers cut across the files. Drop everything! I dropped the dash cam, but I clenched the folder tight. Gabriel's voice crackled in my earpiece. Alarm triggered. Back up en route. You've got 90 seconds. A shot rang out. Glass shattered behind us. Colin shoved me toward a panel in the floor. I hit the switch, and it opened to a narrow tunnel. I held onto my father's portrait, his eyes fixed, defiant, as I ducked into the dark passageway. Outside, the woods wrapped around us like a second skin. I heard voices. Static. A radio signal snapped, target escaping, family estate breach. My lungs burned. My thoughts raced. And still, I felt something inside settle. This wasn't fear anymore. It was decision. When your sanctuary becomes your trap, do you flee? Or do you burn the blueprint they used against you? Back at the safe house, I locked the doors and pulled every blind shut. My hands still shook, but I worked. I slid the USB from the dash cam into my tablet. The screen lit up, not just video, but lab results. Spiked graphs. Medical charts. Evelyn Rowan, subject 001. Immune variant activated. Below, a clip played. Margaret, standing in front of a panel of suited executives. Our investment is sound. Subject 001 will inherit everything, there will be no loose ends. I slammed the table. I wasn't born. I was engineered for profit. My mother hadn't just used me. She created a system where I was both the heir and the asset. And my father? His death wasn't just tragic. It was tactical. The man who protected me was silenced. I'd spent my whole life wondering why I never fit in. Now I knew, because I wasn't made to belong. I was made to be used. What would you do if someone you trusted built your life on a blueprint and hid the screws? I picked up my phone. Marla Denson, legal advisory, the voice answered. It's Evelyn. I need to issue a cease and desist to Rowan Foundation Holdings and lock Margaret Rowan's access. Effective immediately? Now. I hit record on my tablet, stared into the lens. This is Evelyn Rowan. I reclaim my name. I reclaim the truth. Within minutes, alerts popped. Margaret's social security index was frozen. Her charity flagged. Access revoked. In Avonbrook, Victoria's phone buzzed violently. Asset frozen, it read. Rowan account audit triggered. She stared at the screen, breath shallow. Meanwhile, I sat in stillness. Calm for the first time. They treated me like inventory, I said. Now I'm the strategist. Sometimes the only way to win is to flip their rules and force them to play your game. A call came through. No caller ID. I answered. You think you've exposed the family, the voice said. Low. Unfamiliar. You only peeled the first layer. Click. The line went dead. My tablet blinked. A new file appeared, unprompted. Rowan Initiative, Level 2. I stared at it. Then I smiled, small, tired, but ready. I'm not afraid anymore. Outside the safe house, deep in the woods, headlights blinked once, then disappeared. The game was still on. And I wasn't done. What do you do when your enemy changes the board mid-play? You learn how to change the game. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the tablet. I inserted the USB drive carefully, as if it could burn me. My father's voice filled the room, gravelly but steady. Margaret Rowan, he began, you misused my trust. His face appeared, tired but resolute. Behind him, faint laughter echoed, my mother's. The camera shifted, and there was Victoria, signing something on a stack of documents. My father's hand shook as he pointed to the camera. This isn't legacy, he said. It's theft. I pressed pause. My throat tightened. The betrayal wasn't just recent, it had been alive for decades. I closed the tablet, breathing through my teeth. I'm not just the subject, I said aloud. I'm the witness. I thought of the people watching from their homes when this story would break, the way truth, once seen, can't be unseen. Have you ever caught someone in a lie so deep it rewrote your past? What did you do next? The next morning, I started the war my family had tried to prevent. Emails, encrypted and timestamped, left my device like arrows from a bow. To the press. To the board of the Rowan Foundation. To the Federal Financial Office. Each one carried attachments, videos, documents, signatures. Proof. Subject line, full disclosure, Rowan Initiative. By noon, Margaret's accounts were frozen. A local station announced an emergency press briefing at the courthouse. I parked across the street, watching people gather. I didn't go inside yet. I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the courthouse dome. Anger had been my compass for days. Now it gave way to something quieter, focus. Some battles don't start with a roar. They start with a whisper to those who need to listen. I whispered, let's begin. Inside, the air was thick with perfume, paper, and tension. Cameras lined the back wall, reporters murmuring into their mics. Victoria walked in first, perfect posture, a calm mask for chaos. My mother followed, radiant as ever, dressed for charity, not war. I stood behind the podium, folder in hand. You built this empire on my DNA, I said. You profited from the lie of my existence. Victoria crossed her legs, unflinching. Margaret smiled faintly, like she was listening to a stranger. I clicked the remote. The projector illuminated their faces in the recordings, Margaret's laughter, Victoria's signature, my father's voice calling it fraud. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Every document you filed, every grant you approved, it was signed using research stolen from a human subject. Me. My voice didn't tremble. Margaret rose from her seat, clutching her chest. For a moment, I thought it was another performance. But then she stumbled forward, collapsing in slow motion. The room erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Victoria knelt, pretending to console her, whispering something sharp enough to slice. Would you stop when truth meets scandal, or keep going when they start playing the victims they created? That night, the storm returned, this time on my phone. A call from the sheriff's office. They'd found Colin's car off the side of a forest road. Crumpled, but not fatal. He was alive. But he didn't remember me. I drove there anyway, headlights slicing through the rain. The nurse met me outside. He's conscious, she said. But he doesn't know who you are. I looked through the hospital window, his face bruised, confused. My hands shook around the crash photo. The same road. The same bend. The same night my father's video mentioned. My truth had burned everything around it. My anger had lit a fire too large to control. I whispered, I can't save everyone. But I won't let them destroy me. When you fight for truth, do you walk away wounded, or sharpened by the scar? Back home, I packed quietly. The house felt smaller now, hollowed out by exposure. I grabbed only what mattered, the letter, the photo, the tablet. My final message went out to Victoria, your empire collapses at dawn. Then I opened the framed picture of my father. The glass was cracked, but his eyes still held strength. I pressed my forehead against it. Truth bends, he used to say, but it doesn't break. For the first time, I believed him. I opened the final form on my screen, legal name change. One stroke of the key erased Rowan. I hit submit. No more inheritance. No more shadow. I walked out as the engine started, headlights cutting through fog. The night was alive with uncertainty, but it was mine. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A new text. No number attached. Level 3 initiated. I exhaled slowly. So it wasn't over. It had only just begun. You can expose the truth, but what happens when the truth looks back at you? Evelyn woke to silence. Pale orange light filtered through the gauzy curtains of the safe house, casting soft shadows across the room. The world outside was still, holding its breath as though afraid to disturb this moment. She lay still, listening to her breath, the rise and fall of her chest. No sirens. No voices. Just the quiet pulse of life continuing forward. Her hand instinctively reached for the tablet beside her, but she didn't turn it on. Instead, she sat up, barefoot on the cool wooden floor, and whispered her father's words, truth bends, but it doesn't break. The window overlooked a dirt road lined with pine trees. No cars. No agents. No ghosts of Margaret or Victoria hovering over her decisions. Just sky and solitude. She opened her laptop one last time, not to chase data or revenge, but to delete the Rowan from her email signature. Just Evelyn. She silenced the charity notifications, the alerts, the flags. I am Evelyn. I am enough. Have you ever felt the shift, the one where you're no longer living in someone else's shadow? Have you ever had to reinvent your name just to find your life again? She recorded a voice message. No rage. No theatrics. Just clarity. To Margaret and Victoria, you built this empire. I built my escape. She attached the final files, the dashcam footage, the boardroom recordings, and her father's confession. Then she encrypted the link and sent it. She didn't wait for a reply. Down the road from the safe house, the sign for the Rowan Foundation flickered faintly, investigation pending now displayed beneath its polished logo. In her car, Evelyn leaned back, radio on low. Talk of a scandal, of a family empire unraveling. She smiled, not triumphant, not vengeful. Just satisfied. A line from a podcast echoed in her mind, "You don't crush the monster. You just step out of its shadow." When you choose peace over vengeance, does it feel like surrender, or the first real step toward power? She started the car at 5:48 a.m. A rural highway stretched out like a lifeline. Trees blurred past, their silhouettes bleeding into one another like memories she no longer needed to keep. Her phone rang. Caller ID, Colin. She answered. His voice was shaky, distant. "Evie, I remember fragments. Are you safe?" "I'm building something new," she said, eyes on the road. "We'll walk it together when you're ready." She didn't mention the guilt, not then. How exposing the truth had nearly cost him his life, had stolen parts of his memory. But the USB lay on the passenger seat. She didn't need to explain anymore. The truth existed now without her having to bleed for it. When you rebuild from ashes, do you carry the fire, or just the spark it gave you? The road curved near a lake just as the sun rose, painting the water in gold. Evelyn pulled over, engine humming low. She stepped out, wind brushing her skin like a promise. In her pocket, the portrait of Arthur Rowan. And the USB. She held the portrait one last time, kissed the corner gently, then laid it back on the seat. Then she removed her wedding ring, cold, metallic, once a tether. She tossed it into the lake. Ripples spread outward, wide and slow, swallowing years in seconds. "Today," she said softly, "I don't owe anyone forgiveness, not for me, for them." She recorded a voice memo. "I stand in my truth. I rise on my terms. If you threw away what bound you, what would you walk toward?" Back in the car, her phone buzzed. A text. No name. No ID. Level 3 initiated. Watch your back. In the rearview mirror, a black SUV crested the hill, distant but closing. She didn't speed up. Didn't panic. She sipped her coffee, fixed her seatbelt. "Some people chase power," she said to no one. "I chase freedom." The road ahead stretched long and open. For the first time, she wasn't running. Freedom isn't the end of a battle. It's the start of something real.